welcome to episode 6 of Super States Practices of Transformation with me, your host, Joshua Peters. If you, like me, find yourself fascinated by the idea of using trance states for personal growth, for professional development, and that could be hypnosis, psychedelics, breathwork, sexuality, and more, you're in the right place. This week, I talked with Misty Magdalena Grace. Misty Magdalena is a plant medicine woman who specializes in microdose coaching. Misty is about to share both her personal journey and give us some incredible insights into the power of microdosing. Stay tuned. Here we go with plant medicines and microdosing for personal growth with Misty Magdalena Grace. I am so excited to be here today with Misty Magdalena Grace. She is a plant medicine woman, a microdose coach specialist, a podcaster, a wife, a mother. She's got so much happening.
Right.
Welcome to Super States, Misty
Ah,
Magdalena.
I'm so excited. Thanks, Joshua. Such an honor to be here.
Well, I'm really happy to get your perspective and your sharing on these kinds of super states that I'm so curious about. Misty Magdalena, can you describe what it is that you do and then how that can transform lives?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Phew, that's hard. A hard job to do in just a few minutes, but I'll do my best. So, as a plant medicine woman and a microdosing coach specialist, I help people transform themselves, mind, body, spirit by going within. I just 2.5 years ago was a binge drinking workaholic who was really stuck in the outside world. I was looking outside myself for love, happiness. Just I was really had a lot of codependent behaviors in my marriage and in relationships and business. I really shut down my feminine energy and was go, 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 do, do, do as a salesperson, right? It's easy to fall to that. And I realized I had a lot of deep grief and unresolved traumas and wounds and stuff inside of me. But I was so locked up in my head and my heart was shut down. And what I rediscovered, thanks to the help of 50 deep dive sits with ayahuasca, psilocybin, silawasca, and then microdosing almost straight now for a year, I recognized that all of our truth lies within, all of our joy, our love, compassion. It's got to start inside of us and inside of our heart. And so, talking to your theme, I expanded my state of consciousness to go into the super conscious, to the seat of the soul, the heart, the home of our truth, our passion, our true desires. And, I healed a lot of people pleasing. I healed the masculine wound. I really realigned my hemispheres of my brain. The masculine was so dominant. The feminine was shut down. Now the feminine, creative, the love, compassion, juicy, intuition, all of that started to come back online. It was a lot of work. A lot of work. I had lots of teachers, lots of support, and then I rediscovered myself as a plant medicine woman, because I know that I know that I know. Part of that expanding consciousness was reconnecting with my past lives, my ancestors, and coming back to my truth. I grew up on a farm in Iowa, and I always loved the land and Mother Earth. And my husband's from Africa, and he rediscovered, oh my gosh, I'm a shaman. Oh, by the way, just a few small things that we learned along the way and rediscovered about who we truly are. And so that's what I would say to kind of finish it up is we really want to help people remember who they truly are, connecting with their heart space, getting out of their head, connecting with their ancestors, connecting with Mother Earth, really going deep within, because that's where all of our answers lie.
Wow, you're right. That is a lot in a short amount of time. That's a fantastic journey, and that's like a 2-year process that you've been having, correct?
Yep. It's, it seems, in some ways, it seems like 20 years. And sometimes it feels only like one. But there was so much. I actually took a ton of time off of work. I was a sales coach, right? In the sales world. And I started realizing that ego death. I'm like, that's not who I really am. I need to really figure this out. And so I was able to, like I said, sit with a ton of deep dive medicine with teachers, plant medicine experts, women, shaman and just had a lot of support along the way. So it was, if I hadn't given myself that much spaciousness, that probably could have taken me the rest of my life. But I
Sure.
was, I was dying inside, and I'm like Andy Dufresne in the movie Shawshank Redemption, my second favorite movie of all time. He was like, get busy living or get busy dying. And I had been so dead inside for so long, really, when I was honest and looking in the mirror at myself. I was
Mm.
like, nope, I'm done with that. I want to live and live fully alive, not just kind of half there.
Yeah, I love that. A coach once told me you're either growing or you're dying, right? Like plants. Plants either grow or they die, and we do the same thing.
And it's true. Life and death to me, oh my gosh, I was so scared of death. I had so many friends die by suicide, addiction. My brother dropped dead of alcoholism. I thought I was following in his footsteps, honestly. But it was like I had this whole different relationship with death even. So yeah, every day we're there's parts of us that are dying, parts of us that are living. It's a beautiful sacred reciprocity and exchange of what's happening on earth every day. It's pretty profound.
Yeah. What was it that was your introduction to plant medicines? Like, how did you discover that as a possibility for healing?
Well, here's a funny story. You're going to love this because I know you knew me back then, back in the day, when I
Yeah.
was a coffee salesperson. I sold mushroom coffee. And so there's two answers. I want to share the interesting divine story because I was being prepared and I didn't even know it. I loved adaptogenic mushrooms, reishi, turkey tail, lion's
Hmm.
mane, because I understood the central nervous system. I understood the gut and all of this, the gut brain and the head brain are connected. And so I was really proud of being able to sell that and share that with the world. And I met a mushroom shaman on LinkedIn here in San Diego. When I moved here, I relocated here 4 years ago in August, and I met him because I thought, oh, maybe he's going to want to sell this mushroom coffee to his clients. And I didn't even understand he was a psychedelic mushroom guy. I didn't even know. I knew nothing about psychedelics. So that was
Yeah.
2019. And then at the end of 2020, I basically hit, proverbial rock bottom because I had my brother died of alcoholism. My mom died. I had a couple friends commit suicide. It was just a really, really, plus a pandemic. Oh, by the way.
Yeah.
So I was starting to surrender. I was starting to let go of that old self because I didn't feel that's who I was anymore. And I read the book, The Surrender Experiment. And inside of there, he talked about meditation. He talked about surrendering. And I just put it out to the universe. And sure enough, a spiritual mentor came to me. When you surrender and let go, and are willing to be open to receive, then the right people show up,
Mm.
and he's the one who suggested ayahuasca and psilocybin. And he has never done plant medicine. He just said,
Mm.
this is what divine guidance is telling me to tell you right now. And at that time, never having done drugs, never even having smoked a cigarette, I was like, I'm so open. I don't care if it's legal. Whatever. I know a guy. I actually know a mushroom shaman. Maybe he knows something. And of
Mm.
course, I mean, he like makes so much medicine. And he took me on my first shamanic, because he's a mushroom shaman. He took me on a shamanic microdosing walk in nature, and I realized how disconnected I was from my heart in that walk and from nature. And so then I started doing deep dives, and with a variety of medicines. I won't go through that whole journey because it was a lot. I sat with several different types of medicines in that first year, but mushrooms was my first like real, I would say, breakthrough of the grief, the trauma, the crying. I was so numb. I didn't even cry when my mom died or my brother died. It was that numb. I was
Mm.
so shut down. And the medicine woke me up and showed me so much. And I was just like, wow. And it was at that time that I knew, because I had done everything. I had meditated, I had acupuncture, chiropractic, I was doing all of these nutritional things, etc. But it was the sacred deep dives with the plants that really finally could shut this off and help me start to really just peel back all of the grief and all of the blockages and all of the stuff that I was holding onto in my body.
Wow. That's pretty amazing that a plant can open that up for people, for you, for a lot of us. And I resonate with how powerful mushrooms in particular can let you feel. right? Like I've had those heart opening experiences myself, and just kind of been just been in tears. And again, out in nature is really the best place for me anyway. Um, yeah, I love how you got there, and it was started with that microdosing process.
Yeah, it was interesting. I will share with you what I discovered. Microdosing was okay. It helped actually shut down my what I call my type A personality brain, and it caused me to slow down. However, I didn't have a coach. I didn't have any structure. I had no clue, and I still had all this trauma. So I actually stopped microdosing in that first few weeks because I was scared. It brought up scary stuff. It was also not deep enough for me. And I see that now with my clients. If someone has done a lot of work already, microdosing is fantastic. However, if I get clients who come to me and microdosing is just not cutting it, not doing enough, and they, especially if they have a lot of addiction, if they have a lot of trauma and repressed grief, like I did,
Mm-hmm.
I can
Mm-hmm.
tell within the first 30 days. I do a 30-day jump start to help people. And if they're getting really good results within that first month, I know that they're going to be okay. But for some of my clients, I'd say about a third of them, they got to go the deep dive path, which is why I came out of the closet. At the time of this recording, I've been a plant medicine woman since April, microdosing coach since last year in September. Really, really working with three beautiful medicines to help people go within, and I it just has been so much. I've learned so much in this process, and I also see how many people are struggling trying to do it themselves. And I said, no, 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 I got to do this full time. I got to come out and be an advocate for safety, because plant medicine is
Mm-hmm.
no joke. You don't want to mess around with it. And for a lot of people, like someone like me who is dealing with a lot of trauma and a lot of grief, you got to work with a mentor. You got to take care of that journey with like I call them sacred gloves, to really make sure that you don't injure yourself, you don't cause further damage, further trauma, because that happened to me, or happened for me rather, in the first 6 months of that journey, because I didn't have a mentor. I sat in ceremony, which is, again, I cannot recommend that enough for protection. But at the same time, the groups that I sat with weren't, how should I say this? They weren't true healers. They weren't true shamans. And there was a lot after ceremony that came up for me that was terrifying and really, really hard. I didn't have the tools to hold myself. And again, you can't heal the mind with the mind. So, like psychotherapy, grief counseling, I tried it, but it didn't. It actually put me down further into the rabbit hole. So, I had to really get a lot of support to connect the mind, the body, the spirit, to purge, to process physically the stuff that was coming through.
I, I'm curious where you go to, like what your journey was to, or how you educate yourself. Like, how do you educate yourself on these kinds of ideas, since there wasn't a lot of, training or coaching available to you?
Well, again, that's why I'm out here talking about this, because I piecemealed it. I prayed about it. I opened myself up. I'm like, same thing. When I did the surrender experiment, and the student teacher appears when they're both ready, right? And
Yeah.
so I started recognizing the damage I was causing myself. And I realized I had heard, again, in the grapevine, that somatic therapy, that was the next tool I added. So I found a somatic therapist. I hired her immediately, and she helped me release a lot of the trauma somatically through my body, through
Mhm.
one-on-one sessions. And then before I knew it, I opened myself up to another tool, Kundalini yoga. Amazing for balancing the mind, the body, the spirit, the central nervous system, the chanting, the mantras, the breath work that's built into Kundalini.
Mhm.
I'm working on getting certified in that right now, studying that, adding that in with my clients as well. So, like the breath work, the Kundalini yoga, again, can't heal the mind through the mind, because this is what got us into this mess, right? At least that's my philosophy. So adding these tools for purging the body. Then I found combo frog medicine, which is not a psychedelic. It's legal. It's a beautiful medicine that helps you purge poop and vomit, my two favorite things to talk about. And it kicked off a huge amount of weight loss for me. As I shed the purging, and the crying is purging, somatic shaking is purging, all sorts of different ways that you can purge through exercise and yoga. And so I also, I forgot to mention this, I leaned back into my past life as a personal trainer and health and fitness person. I've coached over 10,000 people in my past with weight loss, nutrition, exercise, boot camps, kitchen cleanouts, grocery store tours, reminding myself, I mean, hey, I knew all this stuff, right? But
Yeah.
I was so lost, I blocked most of it. And I was like, oh, yeah, duh. I know this. The body keeps the score. You got to get that stress out, garbage in, garbage out. And I had years of binge drinking, all of this, at times emotional eating and stress that our body carries. I was just remembering more of my past self as I cleared the clutter, as I released the trauma. Then the mind could be more calm. I could be more present again with all those other tools. So they just organically started showing up on my path. And I think that's what I tell everyone, trusting your intuition, trusting that next step. What works for Lois may not work for Josh. Misty Magdalena Grace. Sorry about that. That was my own little my former name self. But anyway, be able to help people recognize that everyone has got to be a sovereign being and find their own path. However, I do want to be able to share more of these tools so people can figure out what's going to work best for them as they go the plant medicine path, because it's a very brave and courageous path, especially if you're looking to truly heal. Some people
Yeah.
do it recreationally, and I'm like, that's fine. These medicines are so sacred, though. The spiritual connection, the relationship that you, if you choose to, and you don't have to, but if people want to connect with the medicine at a deeper level, because they've been around here for billions of years, millions, depending on who you talk to, their consciousness is so wise, and there's so much that they can share with us. It's just, if you don't use them in a sacred way, and if I feel like if you don't have a mentor and a guide along the way, either A, you're missing out on so much, or it can be ungrounding. I see a lot of people doing medicine every weekend or microdosing on their own, at higher doses, taking risks, taking chances. And you just got to remember that these plants are they were originally only used in sacred ceremony. The Native Americans still only really use them in their peyote ceremonies, or, shamans in the jungle. They have different lives than we do here. This is the concrete jungle that we
Yeah.
live in. We have
Yeah.
so many different stressors in America, and different trauma as well, different generational traumas and things. So just encouraging people to be mindful and to find the right tools to support you if you choose to go this path.
So you just reminded me. You did you follow the plane crash that occurred in Peru?
I just heard about
Did
that. The four kids that
Yeah,
that lived, and they were indigenous, so they were able to work with the jungle and work with the foods to help them
and
survive.
here was the thing that I read that is not widely reported on, but their grandfather used ayahuasca to find them.
Yes, yes, I forgot about that. Yes, exactly. I know, right? Like, oh my gosh, you don't have to just
He
pray
used
about
the
things.
ayahuasca. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna find them today," and they found them. And
Yes.
yeah, really, really amazing story. And I saw that article on AP News. So that was a widely reported thing, but not really well, kind of a in hindsight kind of a piece. But
Yeah.
one of the things that occurred to me about what you just shared with us, on kind of how you're educating yourself, is that really you've been practicing for this for your whole life. And all of the experiences that you've had, all the learnings, all the trainings, like everything that you've done is actually feeding this process, helping you become Misty Magdalena Grace, the microdose coach. the plant medicine woman, right? Because that seems to me like how life goes. We are building on all of those steps.
100%. Yeah, that's actually one of the. It's going to be the title of my book. I now have seen more of the divine timing. Why I haven't written it yet, because some people can be really harsh. Gosh, I got a book in me and I got to write it. Yeah, no, no, no. Let the divine wisdom and timing show up for you. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things in my first, was it my first year? Yeah, it was probably about my third or fourth deep dive with mushrooms. They gave me. I was channeling what I didn't know at the time was the title of my book, and it's all the signs, all the teachers. When you look back at your life, of course, hindsight's 2020. You look back, and even though there's some really, really painful things that I have gone through, and you've gone through, and my clients have gone through,
Mm-hmm.
once we can heal from it and truly heal and find love and compassion and grace and wisdom from it, we look back and we're like, thank you. I'm so glad I was molested or raped, or I'm so glad I grew up in a very dogmatic, religious, strict home. I'm so glad that friend died when they died, or, I've had so much gratitude, and all the signs and all the teachers along the way, to your point, brought me here. And I'm so, so grateful. So, so grateful.
As am I. Uh, Tell me, in your view, what's most misunderstood about, let's say, microdosing in general?
I actually just recorded a podcast on this, and I feel like it's a little controversial, but I called it "Microdosing without a daily spiritual practice is like foreplay without sex."
Hmm.
So to me, sex is a sacred act. Microdosing is a sacred act, and you've got to have like a daily hygiene or ritual to honor that, to really truly connect with your partner in the realm of sex, the sacred, my own personal opinion around that. And then the microdosing is like, you can have such rich, I'll call them mind, body, spirit orgasms with yourself and the medicine if you're co-creating. And I think most people think, and this is what I've seen with a lot of people, oh, I'll just pop this magic pill, magic mushroom, right? Or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because I work with mushrooms, ayahuasca, and ayahuasca. So that's a tincture. But if I just pop this thing, my brain is magically just going to fix itself. They feel like they're broken, they need to be fixed. And there's a lot of disconnect with the spiritual daily practice, that if you combine that with the microdosing, with the medicine, anything is possible. It's so limitless. And kind of the other reason I mention that is because microdosing, and it did for me, and I've seen it with some of my clients, even though it's 500 milligrams or less, or 5 tincture drops or less of whichever medicine, it can still bring up trauma. It can still cause you
Mm.
to have anxiety. It can cause you to have a detox of the body. And if you don't have a daily practice to go with that, where you set up an altar, you have your Palo Santo and your candle, your incense, all of these tools. Maybe you pull a card from the Divine Feminine Oracle deck. I have all my tools right here,
Yeah.
and connect and ask, what is the wisdom I'm learning today? What am I missing? What are you teaching me? What am I releasing? What I'm calling in? You have that ability to cleanse your mind and connect with your body if you have that daily spiritual practice. Because if stuff comes up for you while you're driving your car, you could have an accident, right? With the medicine. If
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
all of a sudden have a detox symptom and you're running to the bathroom, or if you just feel, just it gets in your body and it's trying to break the trauma, it's trying to break the grief, it's trying to get you into your heart space. That's like serious stuff. It's not like drinking a shake or taking a B vitamin. We're talking, this is really serious, sacred, connecting medicine. And I just see people not taking it that serious. And again, just my own thought. That's why I stopped at the beginning, because I was scared and I didn't have a mentor or have a coach. So that'd be like the final thing that would go with that. If someone's listening and they're just thinking, gosh, this microdosing thing isn't working, or what do I expect? What do I do? Do I just take this pill and go about my day, or this mushroom or whatever? I would encourage them to find a guide, a mentor, at least for a few months, to help them build that sacred practice, to be able to
Yeah.
then be able to face and hold themselves through whatever the medicine shows them that day or that week.
I love that. And I'll share because I worked with you for a 30-day stint, right? And I'm one of those people who I've tried microdosing by myself before, and it was okay. When I followed your coaching and we set up a ritual around it every day, and even though, we're not talking about like chanting to whoever and waving wands of incense around. And I mean, it can be that, but it doesn't have to be that, right? We're not talking about that. It was, for me, it was simple as lighting a candle and putting an intention into the medicine before I took it, and then sitting and meditating with that for half an hour. And when I did it that way, I had profound results. In fact, it led to this podcast, which we're doing right now.
Mm.
So I can guarantee that it's going to be different when you have intention putting into it, and you're like you said, you're building a spiritual practice around it, because this is a spiritual being that we're talking about here. This is not just, that's why they call it plant medicine and not a drug, because it's not a drug. This is a medicine. This is a living being that is sharing its essence with us, in my opinion, anyway.
Oh yeah, I just listened to a podcast where I heard 100% agree with you, Josh. Someone else that's a shaman educator, she actually talked about calling it technology. Like it's a technology that you're using within that is helping kind of like rewrite your code, and at the
Mm-hmm.
same time when you're working with the technology, you want to take it seriously, right? There's a relationship that's got to be developed in order for you to get the best out of that. And I'm glad you said that too about psychedelic and drugs, because I actually don't like to use the word psychedelic at all, even though I know it means mind manifesting. And again, so many people are focused on the head brain and forget the heart brain is the most magnetic part of us. That's the seat of our soul. That's the home of our truth, ancestral and galactic, whatever you believe in. It's all part, it's all
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And so to be able to call it an entheogen or a plant medicine is much more of what I want to share with people, because people will still accidentally say to me, oh, are you a drug dealer? Are you is this a drug? So there's still some of that residue of the 60s and the whole Richard Nixon thing, and
Yeah.
some of the Timothy Leary things, and some of the things that people are afraid of. And I just want to encourage them to see it differently. So thank you for allowing me to share.
Yeah, for sure. Based on kind of everything that you've gone through, give us a practical way that someone could use, either microdosing or doing a deep dive, to improve their life.
Oh my God. So like an example of how it
Yeah.
might do that.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen for myself and so many how it can reduce addictive behaviors. So, like seeing people cut back on alcohol or eliminate if that's what they choose, healing their relationship with their partner. That's something that I did 2.5 years ago. I thought for sure I was headed for divorce, and recognized that the healing path, my partner's a mirror to me, and he's bringing out the best and worst. And a lot of
Yeah.
that was the father wound and the mother wound and childhood trauma that I've been unpacking and healing through that process. Connecting with your, I know this is going to sound maybe for some people a little esoteric, but connecting with my ancestors, or helping my clients connect with their ancestors and their truth, then they don't feel so alone. They don't feel
Mm.
so alone. I think a lot of times we feel so alone and separate and isolated in this world because we're weird, we're unique, we're different. But it can help you accept your weirdness, love yourself, fall in love with yourself, by also knowing that your ancestors have walked before you. You are your ancestors, I believe. And so to rebuild and fortify that faith and confidence in your essence, your beingness, your truth is so huge. I've seen people who just couldn't focus. They were too in their head, too much anxiety then as a result, or
Yeah.
depression, living in the past or the future, just helping bring about that presence and that focus. I've even had people who were with coming to me for support with chronic pain, and it helped them change their relationship with pain and be less dependent upon Vicodin and things of that nature. And I think lastly, and probably the most profound one for me is if you're feeling disconnected from God, source, creator, spirituality, whatever, and you want to come back to that, because that was one of my major healings, both with microdosing and the deep dives, was to just remember that divinity within. Again, whatever you believe in is perfectly fine. It's just what is to you and what is that relationship and connecting with that. Because in theogen is that connecting with God within. And so
Mm.
to have that also helps us have more strength, more courage, more love, compassion, eliminating some of that, I think Catholic guilt, Christian guilt, shame, isolation, separateness, less than, all of that stuff is so rooted in our society today. And so having that spiritual connection with yourself through the medicine
Yeah.
is so liberating and so empowering. And I would even say, kudos to you. Congrats on this podcast, because through the microdosing, it sounds like speaking your truth and coming out and taking a risk even is a beautiful example of what's possible, and how the medicine can give you more courage and strength as you let things go that no longer serve you. You allow more light to come in for you to shine your light and do good things in the world, like this podcast.
Yeah. Love it. So, what are you excited about for the future of plant medicines and creating personal growth for people?
Oh wow, gosh. I'm one of those weird people. I actually don't care if it gets legalized or not, because I'm a little worried that the legalization actually could destroy a lot of medicine, and if people don't have that sacred coach, mentor, guidance, and use it safely and wisely, it could really do a lot of damage. However, that being said, with it, regardless of how that happens, my husband and I, we want to create 7-day retreats. We want to have a retreat center. We want to have space for couples to come and heal their relationship and heal themselves first, so that they can heal their relationship and do much, much bigger work with that. And then for the microdosing, I want to do also support, create safe containers both online and in person for education, on how to build relationships with the medicine, build relationships with themselves, so then that they can again transform as within, so without. Go and whether they want to, I'm going to have mentorships too, where if people want to have a 6 to 12 month mentorships with me and my husband, then they can learn all these things and go out and do good in the world. If they want to become plant medicine people or not, we want to mentor more people to have those sacred type of relationships and sacred work within themselves, because the more we heal ourselves, we can heal the collective, and we want to
Hmm.
be able to duplicate ourselves and help more people, and maybe even start our own church at some point. I don't know exactly, but those are some high level overviews to help share the love that we have for the medicine and the sacred spiritual connection with that.
I love that. I love how I've always appreciated how you think big, and we need more people around us that have big ideas and big goals and strive to let those become real.
Well, and if I can share one more thing, you just helped me think
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I forgot about this. So part of my our vision is to, we're looking for investors also, and different people. With my podcast, we'll have relaunched by the time that this is out there, but we want to be able to have a nonprofit and be able to do ceremonies for people with mental illness, bipolar, schizophrenia, addiction. I've lost so many friends to suicide and addiction. I have a huge purpose to give back. So to be able to make things affordable or free through our nonprofit is really part of our big mission as well, because there's a lot of people out there who can't afford to take these medicines, or they'll try to do it themselves and end up committing suicide, or end up still struggling with addiction because they just don't know how to work with the medicine, or have a really bad, terrifying trip. I don't want anybody, especially if they're in that space of mental illness, to go through that alone, because it's devastating. And so that's our big give back, that sacred reciprocity of what we want to be able to create and help the world, for sure.
I love it. Yeah, thinking big. Misty Magdalena, how can people learn more about you if they want to connect?
Yeah, absolutely. Look for me on LinkedIn. Look for me on Instagram. I have my Healthy and Wealthy and Wise podcast. By the time you guys listen to this, I'll be a few episodes into my season 4, year 4, focusing on psychedelic shamanism, microdosing, spirituality, inner child healing, shadow work, all of the things that I've been shown by the medicines these past 2 years. And then I have a website, Microdosing for Health .now.site. I'll be updating that all the time with free education, recordings from past classes, our ceremonial events. We have ceremonies and things that we offer up with amazing medicine, so we can be a resource for you. And I will say it, if it's slightly confusing, I went through my ego death. Showed me I released my old name, Lois Kofi, formally at the time of this recording. However, you may still find me out there as Lois Kofi. So if you're confused, like, wait a minute, is this the same person? It is, but it isn't. But just putting it out there.
We're always shifting and changing, and I've done that with my name before. I think our names hold a lot of power, and when you change how you show up in the world through a name is a powerful statement.
Yeah. It happens a lot in the spiritual space, and I've been shown that it was time to go there. So I'm super excited to embody my highest and best version of me.
Awesome. Well, one last question for you, Misty Magdalena. What is one insight that you want this audience to leave with today?
Oh my God. I'm working on not crying. Just to remember that you are not alone. You are so loved. And so supported by so many ancestors, so many plants, Mother Earth. There's just so much love. It's just, you got to be able to go inside to find it and to feel it and to trust it. And once you can, and once you get on that other side, there's so much love, joy, and bliss that lies within you. That's what I want people to know.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Misty Magdalena, and I'm excited to continue to see what your life unfolds for the world.
Thank you.
If you can hear my voice, that means you stuck around for the whole episode. Thank you so much for listening and for gaining value from my guests. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, please leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That's really the best way to expand this message so that more people can be in tune with super states. It would really mean a lot to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast through your favorite platform. You can also subscribe on YouTube, where we have this in video format. Either way, you'll stay up to date with super states. Make sure to let me know what kind of topics you'd like to hear, or guests you'd like me to interview in future episodes. You can get in touch by just responding in the comments. You can also find me on most of the social medias out there at Joshua Ray Peters. I will answer every comment that I get. I'll see you all next week. And remember, you carry the seeds of change inside. Stay flexible, keep growing, and embrace your transformation.